Hello, Internet. Welcome to Only Kind of Everything. And as you can guess by the title, we are going to give a review of WWE 2K25. Now, I'm going to preface this by saying I have had this game for a little bit longer than most. I did get the Bloodline Edition. So let's just dive right in. What are some of the major differences between this game and last? Because with yearly releases, that's kind of the problem. It's the same thing over and over and over. Yes, you can point to maybe new additions to the roster or people who have already been released that are in the game still, but there are some unique additions to this game. For starters, in GM mode, they've done some tweaking in that where you have your go home show, which is kind of like, that's what I would call your pay-per-view, quote unquote, your premium live event. And that takes place the week before, as they do. The actual PLE event is a face-off pay-per-view between you and your opponents, be it AI or friend. That can only be done. That's a neat little feature because you have, depending on how many people you have, obviously the number of matches. I've only done one-on-one, like me versus another human or another AI. But you have these matches where you go against each other and they allow you to get extra, like an extra special card, extra advantages for winning these matches. Something else to point out, with GM mode, this is the first time you have been actually able to play online with friends. That's a really big deal if you've got friends, in other states, or you just don't always get the time to hang out with your friends as much as you like, but you guys like a good GM mode. You can play it online, and you can continue that save file offline if you guys do get together. We're going to switch gears now, and we're going to talk a little bit about My Rise. My Rise, it's an interesting one this year. I like the story that's being told. I think the worst story told so far has been, at least in recent years, the Locke story. Last year's wasn't terrible. This year's, I like some elements of it a lot more than other elements. I don't want to spoil the story of the My Rise, because that is kind of a big part of it. But one thing I will say, and this is an across the board statement, not necessarily directed at My Rise. I don't like, I from a gameplay perspective, I get the development behind it, locking stuff behind My Rise and showcase and all that whatnot. That is a way to keep your player base playing. I don't like it personally. These are modes that I would have played on my own eventually. But as somebody who likes to have a complete, as close as I can to complete roster as quickly as I can, the idea of having to play all of these modes, in rapid fire, just so my exhibition modes, I have access to everybody, that doesn't sit well with me. But that's just the nature of the beast. I get that. But the story is cool. It takes advantage of a feature that is added to this game, which is the return of intergender matches. There are also intergender titles that can be defended in exhibition mode. So that is something else to keep in mind with this. This is the first time in a long time that you've been able to take like China or Rhea Ripley and just beat the living tar out of Dominic Mysterio or somebody to that effect. Something else to keep in mind with the story mode is that the stuff that you're unlocking isn't necessarily just all through progression. They have WWE live events, which are effectively just exhibition matches thrown at you that allow you to help level up your character. But there are unlocks locked behind your total cumulative match star rankings. So the first unlock is 20 cumulative stars, and that's Super Cena, the Invisible John Cena from last year's game. So that is, again, it's a neat feature. It makes you use the the live events that you maybe wouldn't have put as much time into. But I mean, it's cool. I like it. It is a little grindy for my taste. And then we're going to switch over and we're going to talk about my faction. My faction last year was a bit of a hot topic because you have these persona cards that they introduced last year, and you locked these persona cards behind My Rise. Now, they're still there. They're still locked. But they've made it a little bit easier with the introduction, of World Tour, which allows you to unlock some of these persona cards by just completing various matches and tasks, including but not limited to CM Punk with the This Fire Burns theme song. That's a big get for a lot of people. I'm still in the process of getting that one. Some of these challenges are just ridiculous, but it is a nice change of pace to just go in and it's not just I have to hit certain moves and all that. I like it. The My Faction is, I would say it's improved. It's still a little predatory. The prices for the VC to real packs, which you can buy the VC with actual currency, I don't feel is as predatory as last year, but it's still a bit of an RNG for some of this stuff, and that is what it is. I'm not a fan of it, but Universe mode is probably the only thing I haven't really done a whole lot with yet. I don't normally mess with Universe too much. I tend to do my Universe stuff just through exhibition. So I can't really comment a tremendous amount on what Universe mode is going to entail for you. But I think the other big talking point that I want to get to before any technical breakdowns is the showcase. Obviously, I'm wearing the hat and representing our tribal chief here. And the showcase mode is about the bloodline. Going back to Afa and Sika, covering Rosie and Jamal and Umaga. It is presented in a way where you are winning matches the bloodline won. And in some cases, like the Head Shrinkers, you are changing history in favor of the bloodline going over. Just like last year, each match is accompanied by a small video, in this case, mostly narrated by Paul Heyman, who does a wonderful job. And then you have some breakaway parts with Roman and Solo Sikoa talking about the individual member of the family at that point. There was some spots where they're both talking about Yokozuna, which was really cool. And it's almost like documentary style, which is really neat. There are some challenges within the Bloodline showcase that need to be addressed. I personally don't like matches where it tells you have to do X, Y, and Z in order to win the match. Just let me win the match. But I get it. You're supposed to be recreating these legendary moments in history, but I hate that being in mid-match. And a new feature to these challenges during match are now timed elements, which is just that much more frustrating. I'm not going to sit and rant about that, but that is a feature that I absolutely despise, having a timed portion in these things. Now we're going to get into gameplay. The chain wrestling is back, and it's not terrible. I really only experienced it a lot in the My Rise mode, which again isn't necessarily bad. But there is a feature that was available last year that just seems to show up way too much this year. And that is the, I don't know what they call it. I remember they had a term for it, but I just don't remember what it was. But it's the little mini game where I hit you, you hit me, we hold the square button and release. That comes up way too much now. It was a neat novelty thing in the last game. I think it would have been nice to come up a little bit more, but in this game, I don't think I've done a match yet where it doesn't happen. So I think there needs to be a balance found with that feature, because it does kind of throw the pace of a match off. And so the feature that was cool, is worn out its welcome for me. Maybe I'm just lucky or unlucky, however you want to look at that, and I just triggered it a bunch. Graphically, I am playing on the PlayStation 5. The game does look really crisp. The Underground match has some features in the PlayStation 5 and Series X version that is not present in the PS4 and Xbox One version. The Underground match has like people on the outside. Overall, it's, at the end of the day, it's still a WWE 2K game. There are, small quality of life improvements throughout the game that make it feel a little bit better. You do have, some of the additions, the intergender. Who would have thought we would be in a world where in WWE match you're using light tubes again, but here we are. So, looking at the game from that perspective, is it better than last year's? That's the first question I want to ask. And I would say that yes, it is an improvement over last year. Granted, the 2K games seldomly get worse. I would say the lowest point of the series was 2K20, and they took a whole year off because that game was so bad. I'm not going to say the series has gone from strength to strength, because I don't know that I've seen that much of a jump to say strength to strength, but the game has marginally improved from year to year to year. There are some nitpicky things that I could complain about, and I will, because this is my review of it. The idea that stuff that you just got last year that is now locked in any form this year is frustrating to me. Super Cena being the thing I'm going to point to. There are others that I could point to, but this is the one I'm going to point to start with. You unlocked Super Cena by completing Showcase Mode last year. The keeping of Super Cena in this game is cool, but the fact that Super Cena is locked, and not even locked like, you can just buy him with your VC for exhibition mode, but he's actually locked. You have to complete a task to get him, is a bit frustrating to me. I don't like that idea of stuff that was available last game isn't this game. Like we say with Big E. Big E is locked in 2K25, and he was not locked last year. That's another prime example of something that just absolutely blows my mind, that a guy who's been on the roster just straight for years, now you got to complete tasks to get him. To me, that's a step in the wrong direction, but I digress. So we've rambled a bunch. Let's get to the part that you're maybe worried about. What is my actual end of the video thoughts? I would say on a scale of 1 to 10, is WWE 2K25 good? I would say it's a solid 6. You know what? Let's say 7. Let's say 7. Because 6 seems a little harsh. I have had a lot of fun with this game so far. The gripes I have feel like, at least to me, they are more personal gripes and not necessarily things that would detract from the overall experience of the game. So I'm going to say it's a 7 out of 10. If you're a wrestling fan, it is definitely the game to grab. There are some things I could complain about too, that, they're involving the DLC tactics and whatnot. You know what? No, let's back up. Let us say 6. Because of those DLC tactics. It's not a bad game. 6, 7. However you want to look at that. Would I tell you to buy it? If you like wrestling games, yes, get it. It is probably one of the first times I could say that the quality of life updates that you're getting from last year to this year are actually worth the extra investment. Obviously, if you are, savvy and you don't mind waiting, maybe wait a few months to get a couple DLC packs. You get more stuff at launch for you, quote unquote. Launch has already happened, so you might struggle to get your hands on the Wyatt 6, which again I think is another issue. They should have just been in the game, but I digress. But yeah, that is my review of WWE 2K25. 6 out of 10. Go ahead and pick yourself up a copy, but unless you're a diehard, maybe wait to catch it on sale. But that's all I have for today. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you think of WWE 2K25 in the comments, and I will see all of you in the next video. Bye!